Well, Salvatore has no sun. It's ruled by its moons, but none of them are of its own elliptical orbit or its celestial body. They're all alien to the world.
Head swap. The following conversation never happened. It exists in this form as an artifact of a non-event.
ABZU was this really cool melding of ideas. It started back in, what was that, 21? Yeah, it was the Grimdark Film Club invitation was what it was. And this 2020, yeah, when we were all locked down. That's right. I remember this now.
Though this conversation is an illusion, never existed. The discovery of ABZU did happen. Documented. Photographed.
Having that personal connection and making the model more than just like the physical thing that you've manipulated, putting some personal, creative, like heart or energy into something became a little bit more important.
We will hear the voices of explorers that discovered ABZU. To summarize ABZU would be to, in a way, miss the inviting mystery.
But you need to find your crew and the people who have similar thoughts of what this hobby is to them. And once you do that, as with other projects I've done with ABZU in particular, is just it flows when you find people of like mindset, and it makes a story building effort, a campaign, a game, an invitational all the much easier.
The explorers that discovered ABZU can be found in the database under there. Nom de guerre. At symptomatic chaos. At that beyond the light. At into the gray north. The discovery of ABZU involved other associates. Search hashtag ABZU in the database.
My original concept was that I was going to have these three little explorers who'd gone into this room, found this horrific scene of basically psychics being used to power like a sort of like a interdimensional engine, and basically they come into contact with it. I wrote a whole little lore piece on it. Kind of got the bowl sorted and the sphere and started filling it with some bits. And Hope into the Grey North, he messaged me out the blue and said, "Hey, we're actually working, me and a couple of guys are working on a similar project to do with Event Horizon. Do you want in? Because we're at a loose end of how to do the warp drive."
Cool to see, some people's specific vision, even seeing Gareth and the dope stuff he was doing off the drive room, and like the curved walls still trip me out, like how he made them look so slick. And like the power coming from like the psychers or whatever in the middle. That's a pretty grimdark idea to, think about coming across this drive room years later and to have it powered by people of some sort or beings of some sort.
Sam Neill sitting on that throne after he's, ripped his eyes out and saying, "Where we're going, we won't need eyes to see."
The discovery of ABZU started with artists that appreciated each other's work.
I was pretty jazzed about being involved in this thing the whole time. Certainly, very, very fortunate to be a part of it and watch. But it was Colt that I think just invited me along. It's like, hey, you want to jam on this? And because I had been working on some stuff with him, it was a pretty easy yes. And then just kind of flowed along with it for the rest of the year,
I felt a bit intimidated, to be honest. They contacted with me and were like, "We want you to work with us." And I had to tell Cole, I was like, "I'm going to have to take a minute to think about this, because this could either go spectacularly well or really horrible." And I was like, so I took a minute and I thought, this is an opportunity that I'm probably never going to get again.
Cole bolted me into a chat that he had going on with Shane, Lunax 7070. Like, having a voice is important, but I mean, to use like a musical analogy, even if you have a nice singing voice, if you're going to sing in a group setting, you have to know how to harmonize, right?
Yeah.
A stoner metal band that I'm real fond of. That dude like up on some walker or platform playing his guts out, and this electric lightning storm behind him, you know, and he just finally his head pops because he just can't contain the music. And that all plays out in the song. And I think, you know, everybody hears those things differently, but at least to me, that gives me inspiration. And I've got pieces I'm working on for that.
A few years ago, I flow straight from the hip. I think similarly to what Colt talked about, I regularly hobby with music playing, and I tend to just use the hobby as an escape and a distraction, and I have a job that can be pretty regimented and stressful, and it requires a very like logical, you know, type of thinking. And so try to have a hobby style that's completely opposite to that. I've had a general idea, like I'm just going to do this, and you just start tinkering.
Part of the thing that draws me to it is the problem solving side of things. Part of the Salvatore 28 thing that I'm building has been a lot of problem solving, like working out how shapes fit together and how to like manipulate that in order to fit shapes where shapes shouldn't fit. Engineering.
It could be a sublime experience to come across an artifact of such a discovery.
This isn't just a picture of some plastic toy soldiers painted on a board, you know, like this is something that is a story. Having some folks that vibed in that were down to tell the story. Colt was the spearhead of it. And Shane, Gareth, and Luke, myself were, and even the unsung hero Brad, who was in the group thread just jamming with us. Like everybody vibed out on that. Like they're down to be a part of this story.
On the planet, I'm looking around. What's one thing that I would see that would embody my experience on Salvatore?
Moons. Moons are sporadic. The moons don't rise in the east and set in the west. They rise wherever they want to and set wherever they want to, when they want to, as fast as they want. And there are different moons in different regions.
There were days when it was Colt and Shane who were just riffing off the moon and the theory of the moon with these irregular orbits, and they would get pretty abstract from the perspective of this being a modeling thing.
Yeah.
But it was all like, I think, super important. Like it was just getting that mindset and that vibe around what's happening and talking about
4 and 3 and 2 and 1 and
ABZU is a very powerful moon that has only orbited the planet twice in its long history since being cut off from the Imperium.
And then that's when the obelisk came in, and
Betskinsky, the European artist, he had a piece called AO, and it was just this huge monolithic structure. And this piece of an end table that was about to be thrown out, I said, oh my God, that's AO right there. And I just saw it immediately at that point. And I was like, I got it. I was like, you're not throwing this away.
Just being flexible, understanding that. So
Yeah.
Something that I do conscientiously is just trying to think about, like, what can I do to harmonize, if you will, with folks. I tried to, like, get in his brain, not to 100% copy, but I just want to understand, like, what was your thought process? How did these come about? And then understand that energy, and then kind of put my spin on it from there. You know, like, oh, well, what if we did this, and
You were taking the photograph seriously. It wasn't just like this artifact thing from a game. It wasn't just like, oh, I made this and then I just took a picture of it with my cell phone, or even with a nice camera. Like, it's like it's almost like, to me, the end product of your work was those photographs. Like, the models were made for the photographs, and the terrain was made for the photographs, and then the photographs themselves were edited and processed to be something special and unique in themselves.
To have
Yeah.
someone who's able to enhance those pictures in a way Luke did was a brilliant move, and I think it seriously added a lot to it, especially the tower. Actually, on ABZU, those pictures were absolutely phenomenal, with the eeriness and like ether that was rolling around it.
A discovery of this magnitude, to discover an entire moon, requires an affinity for composition.
Also, yeah, like how your eye draws into things.
Yeah.
So, you know, having your kind of main focus in an area, but having the ability to draw your eye through the piece to that main figure or whatnot, rather than just having it slap bang in the middle where you'll lose everything else around it as such. Having like almost breadcrumbs as such leading into the figure, that's quite a tricky, but once like thing to do. But it is, once you get the hang of it, it's quite an important piece, I think, especially in diorama, especially in busy dioramas as well. You know, if your main focus is just a miniature and you have a simple background, fair enough. But if you want to bring more of a story and narrative into things, then you need to be able to draw the eye through the piece, and I think that's quite difficult.
That's cool. Yeah. Like, just having side by side the final picture and then the picture of the room where he took the thing.
Yeah.
It's so mind blowing to see them side by side.
Yeah.
That whole setup, and it's beautiful. This like really deep immersive experience hobby.
You've got to kind of forget 40K.
But at the same time, I look at y'all's work and I'm like, this is almost more Warhammer than Warhammer. It's like more what I want it to be in my head than what happens when I actually read a book, one of the books. Whenever I like read one of the books, I'm always like, oh man, that's actually not what I wanted to read when I opened it. Or but I feel like looking at you all's work, I'm like, oh, this is actually
a gala night. Within the lonesome latter years, an angel throng, bewinged, bedight, in veils and drowned in tears, sit in a theater to see a play of hopes and fears, while the orchestra breathes fitfully the music of the spheres, mimes in the form of God on high, mutter and mumble low, and hither and thither fly. Mere puppets they, who come and go, at bidding of vast formless things, that shift the scenery to and fro, flapping from out their condor wings, invisible woe.
My name's Chris, and I go by @symptomatic chaos.
My name's Colt. I have the account Into the Gray North on Instagram.
My name's Gareth. My Instagram handle, that on the light.